I don't know about you, but I'm busting at the seams because somebody was up to a lot of nonsense tonight. So let's get into it. Oh, wait, first, before, news on the ticker tape. Guess who was sentenced yesterday?
Who?
Michelle Troconis. Michelle Troconis.
She's innocent. Thank you.
Of, what's his name? That loser that you think is so hot?
Oh, Fotis.
Yeah.
I'd like not to discuss this.
20 years.
Really?
That's a long time.
20 years because she was throwing out stuff.
She was kind of involved after the fact. It's a long time for that, don't you think?
It is.
Yeah. Are you ready to party?
Hell yeah.
I'm Lester Holt.
Howdy, old heads. Kurt Money here, alongside my co-host.
Kateline.
And we are here to discuss a new episode of Dateline. And I don't know, Kate, I feel like, is Dennis Murphy the new host of Dateline? Is it only by Murphdog? What the hell is going on?
It certainly feels like it. This is like the third in a row.
At least. I feel like AC had a run early in the year, but I'm okay with the AC runs. Too much Murphdog. I'm going to say that right now. I'm kind of telling you my thoughts a little, but I need a Murphdog break. I need a KM. I need a J-Make, or I need an AC. How you feeling?
What happened to the new girl?
Oh, yeah, Blaine Alexander.
Where's she at?
Yeah.
Did they have him?
All right. We are discussing Dateline episode season 32, episode 32, which is kind of weird.
Here's Dennis Murphy with Deadly Swap.
All right. IMDb description. A young mother is gunned down in broad daylight by a murderer in disguise. That's the bare bones of it. But I feel like we got some hot takes cooking. So, Caitlin, why don't you go ahead and tell me what you thought about this ep? I can't wait. I've been waiting for days to hear you unload on this episode. What's your beef?
I loved this episode.
What? What are you talking about?
I loved it. I did.
So wait, when you said fired up, you loved it?
I mean, I'm passionate about it.
Okay, hey, that's even better.
Because it was so dumb. All of it was just so dumb. Everybody was dumb. It was dumb. And there were a lot of yucks.
Oh, my. Were there some yucks? And there was, yet again, I may have stood and clapped for one part in this episode that happened. And I was hooting and hollering. Maybe we'll see when we get there. All right, so this story begins, I don't know. It's in 2009. It's at a Target parking lot. Help me out with that state, though.
It's in Snellville, Georgia.
It's an afternoon in 2009.
Heather and Steven.
They are meeting in the parking lot to do a little kid swap. They are divorced, and it's been a little rocky fighting over the kid, whose name is... They said it a bunch.
Carson.
Arson?
Carson.
Carson. Better than arson. Okay. So she...
Do you want me to do it?
Kinda. I'm sorry. I'm really struggling right now, Kate. Line?
This parking lot is where Heather and Steven always meet to do the exchange. Heather gets there, parks the Escalade.
She was at the parking lot to meet with her estranged husband for a custody swap of their 19-month-old son.
And he hands him off to Heather, who then starts to put him in the back seat, and Steven drives off. Then, a few moments later, someone dressed in a very lazy disguise of a mustache and like a Party City Halloween wig approaches Heather. They have some words, and she's shot in the head.
Yeah, point blank.
And then the suspect walks away.
Yeah.
There are half a dozen witnesses, maybe more.
And they're all wrong.
They're all kind of wrong. I mean, they're kind of right. They all say that they saw a very short, thin, slight man dressed in a disguise approach Heather, and seemed like maybe they knew each other, but
yeah,
nobody intervened, but they were all witness to it. As soon as she was shot and the suspect started walking away, they had a ton of calls going to 911. The police had a pretty good idea of what happened when they showed up at the scene.
A string of calls came into the Snellville Police Department.
It's a Cadillac Escalade. You can't miss it. She's laying at the back of the car motionless.
This other third person who came up and shot Heather point blank in the forehead, this person just walks up, shoots, and then walks off.
Yeah.
And it's weird, and boy, do Murphdog and that detective love to talk about how, hey, notice how the killer didn't run away.
And the perpetrator walked away.
I don't know. I can't wait to talk about this walk. A walk that we never got to see in action. If I have to hear about the way legs moved without actual footage of seeing it in action, because that security footage was worthless. Could you tell ate in that footage?
Well, you're giving it away.
Forget I said that. Take it all back.
So the police, they bring in all the witnesses and interview them separately, and everyone says pretty much the same thing. And meanwhile, this is a Target parking lot. There are security cameras. So they check out the surveillance footage. We see the suspect approach. We can't really see the actual shooting.
Chief, it's not great video, is it?
It's not good
It's
video.
grainy
really.
and fuzzy, and
Extremely. And
the camera's always moving, huh?
it's
And then we also see this other angle of the suspect walking away.
Yeah.
And this surveillance footage is basically the best thing they have to go on.
The best thing to go on for the crime and also the content of this TV show.
Yes.
Because you better believe Murphdog's going to describe what he's seen 4 times, because he does.
Oh, brother.
It's hard to see at first glance, so detectives took us through it minute by minute.
So the cops are thinking, all right, this is an incident where the person who did it had to know about this location, that this was where they would do the exchange of Carson.
Which I thought was pretty smart.
So it had to be someone in their orbit.
Yeah, they were like, there's about 12 people that would know about this pickup. That's a pretty small pool to start with. I thought that was decent police work.
Yeah. And then they cross-referenced of those 12 people who fit the description of like a very slight build man. So they're running down the list of people. And this kind of bothered me. They land on Heather's boyfriend, Michael, who she lives with. And they said that he matched the same kind of build. But when they bring him in and we see him, he's not slight.
What are they talking about?
Maybe he's short, but he's not slight at all. He's a man.
I mean, he's stocky.
He caught our eye because of his height and weight. He fit the physical description of the perpetrator. And, it made sense.
Also, he has a huge, thick goatee.
Yeah, that took months to grow.
Right. The disguise that everyone said the person was wearing was a mustache and a wig. They never said anything about a giant, thick ZZ Top goatee thing.
Yeah, I can't wait until we reveal the killer, because this was my biggest hang-up of this episode, is I could not believe how long they quote-unquote hinted at it.
Yeah.
I mean...
Because you and I...
We'll get to it.
We knew who the killer was the second their photo came up on the screen the first time.
Yeah, and we were watching it separately, and we texted each other separately, not knowing what moment we were talking about. But I said a joke about knowing the exact moment of who did it, and you were like, Kurt, same here.
Yeah, and it was way before they even hinted at it maybe being that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was like, oh, it's them. Oh, it's them. Clearly.
And it was probably 45 minutes to an hour before the reveal. I mean, that's not sarcasm.
Yes. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So they're looking at Michael because they think he fits the description, even though he absolutely does not. But he has an alibi.
He seems like a good dude.
He was at work. Everyone can vouch for him. He was a great dude. It wasn't him.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking around at family. They're very suspicious of Steven, even though he is seen driving away. They think he may have had something to do with plotting this murder because they were going through kind of an ugly custody battle.
Yeah.
And they thought it would be plausible that he might want Heather dead so that he could get sole custody of Carson.
Yeah.
So when they're looking at their surveillance video, they see the suspect walking around the back of Target.
Yep.
And back there is like another parking lot, and it backs up to like an extended stay America hotel.
Yeah.
And they send the canine dog back there, and the dog follows the trail and kind of stops right at that parking lot. So they kind of have an idea that that is where the suspect got in a waiting car and left. And
Yeah. I thought that was cool, but also I want to know what does the dog do if they just lose the scent? Like maybe what if they pretend and they do the international sign for, they drove off. Sorry, owner. But really the dog just couldn't smell anymore and should retire. What do you think?
oh,
I don't know. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to talk about Blue because we're talking about cadaver dogs again. Here we are.
yeah,
we're talking cadaver dogs.
We're talking about the canines.
That's what the canine does, right?
Correct.
Takes you to a parking space. And
It basically gets to an asphalt area behind the building and no longer has a track.
So yeah, dog goes back there, sniffs, loses it. So they're like, whoever this killer is, they're a swift walker, and they love talking about the gait and the distance between the legs when they move and sway. I mean, they really do talk about this walking a lot.
There was one thing that did stand out to detectives: the killer's wide, straight-legged walk.
The separation of the legs, how far
It's a long
apart they
stride.
are.
But this person disappeared. Now what are we doing? Their main focus is still kind of on Steven, the ex, because even though he has an alibi, it just fits pretty good.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they're thinking? They're like, he's got to be involved somehow.
So they gather up all of those witnesses from the parking lot again, and they bring them in to do a police sketch. And what was kind of unusual was that they had all 6 witnesses in the same room describing the suspect for the sketch, which
seems like a terrible idea.
It does. And the defense attorneys later on are like, well, you can't do that. They're influencing each other too much.
Exactly. It just depends on who has like the bigger personality in there. Then their belief is the one that everybody's going to take. Like that just seems like real classic human nature stuff that the cops should have known wasn't a good idea in like 1888 or something. Don't you think?
Totally.
I don't see one benefit to this situation other than it saves them time, which we know they love.
Yeah, and the sketch that they came up with is basically just what everyone described. I mean, it's just a person with a fake mustache and a wig. It doesn't help anything.
But it's not even... This sketch is beyond laughable.
It is.
It's a child's drawing. The wig is such that you could tell it's a wig even though it's drawn poorly because it sticks straight up. I laughed my ass off when that sketch showed up, Kateline. Did you laugh?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
That hair's absurd.
So they get lucky because... in the Extended Stay America, there is a guy who is staying there extendedly. Mm-hmm. And he was actually a witness to the suspect coming back to their truck after the murder. And this was another My Cousin Vinny situation.
So good.
Where
so good.
He remembered that truck because it was a very specific F-150 with aftermarket trim. Mm. He was a trucker, so he knew cars, he knew trucks.
And he talked about a piece of black plastic trim that wasn't standard to that vehicle. So it was more of like an add-on. It was an upgrade.
And Murph also pointed that out on the Talking Dateline. He was like, oh, we got a My Cousin Vinny situation here. And I was like, Murph, come on. Yeah.
He said the movie.
He did.
It almost sounds like that old movie, My Cousin Vinny, where the witness gets on the stand and describes in great detail, the Hemi carburetor.
I like that.
He's blowing up my spot.
He's blowing up your spot?
Yeah.
No, but it's a bond that you have with him. You like it when you agree with J-Mink. When all of a sudden you agree with Murphdog and you're like, get off my back, dude. Get off my balls.
Well, totally. Yeah, because I'm a bully.
Yeah.
So they're looking into white F-150s. Who in their orbit would have a truck like this? And it turns out that Steven's mom and stepdad have a truck like that. So they bring this witness on a little ride along to drive past Steven's mom and stepdad's house.
Yeah, you're right. They do.
And they just say, take a look in this driveway and see if you recognize anything. And he's like, oh, that's the truck.
Yeah.
That's the exact truck.
That's the one.
He said, that's the truck I saw. And I'm like, how in the world can you be sure that's the truck?
So again, they're still suspicious of Steven because Steven's living at that house. And that's where that truck is.
Yeah.
At one point, the cops say they're not ruling out parents on either side. Heather's parents were on the road coming back from somewhere, and they have an alibi. They were not near the scene. But they start looking at Steven's parents, and his mom also gave an alibi that she had left to go to her parents' house around that same time and went to Wendy's, and that there would be evidence of that because there's like a receipt in her car that she went to Wendy's.
She had big hopes for that receipt.
She had taken that white truck. So it couldn't have been her because she was driving that out of town.
Yeah.
But the cops, they did that drive. And you can drive from the Target to the Wendy's at that exact time and get there at the same time as the timestamp on the receipt. So like that's not a solid alibi.
No, it's a tough one to hang your whole hat on, I feel.
She also made a point, too, though, to say, if you'll just go look in my truck, there's a Wendy's receipt in there, so you'll know by looking at that I couldn't have done it.
So they bring in Steven to show him this videotape because they're a little suspicious of Mama Joanna. And so they're showing Steven this tape, and his reaction tells him two things. One, he's probably not involved. And two, that's his mom in the video, right? I mean, this guy's poker face is something else. This poor guy.
Yeah.
And before he started saying anything, you could see it in his face.
Although the whole time that interrogation was happening, I was getting annoyed at those cops because they kept saying, that's your mom, isn't it? It's your mom. You know that's your mom. You know what your mom looks like, and that's your mom. And it was like, bro, you're going to ruin the case. You know it's her. You're f***ing it up. This is coercion.
Yeah, it's that.
You don't have to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And they were, again, I hear it every time when they say, like, this is the time. This is the chance for you to make this right, okay? Now is when we can help you. Now is when we can help you. They never can.
Let me tell you, now's the time. Now is the time.
That guy is so clearly trying to force him in. Because he's not saying that's your mom, right? He's going, that's your mom. You know that's your mom. That's your mom. That's your mom. It's wild.
Yeah.
That's her. That's your mom. That's your mom, isn't it? You saw it. You know your own mom.
But Steven is a little baby man, and you can tell in his voice.
I just left the police station.
It's wild because he cheated on Heather. This guy, when you see and hear him, he seems like a big old dweeb. You with me there? What do you think?
Oh, well, he's clearly a mama's boy.
Yeah, that's very true.
He was clearly rattled, and he said when he didn't think anyone was listening, he was like, Carson's life is going to be so messed up. His mom's dead, and I have a mom killer or something. He worded it all funny.
He did. He worded it real weird.
Yeah, but basically admitting, like, Carson, your grandma murdered your mom.
Screwed up my son's life's going to be because his mom's dead. And what, dad has a mom and killed her?
But the cops ask him to call his mom, and they record it.
Of course they did. Of course.
And I thought
they did.
this was pretty damning, too, because he calls, and he's like,
yeah,
Mom, and he's like crying, and she's like, yeah, and he's like, it looks like you. And instead of answering like,
yeah,
what do you mean it looks like? What looks like me? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
The killer looks like me? She goes, oh, it looks like me, huh? Or something. The way she says it.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, it is her.
They showed me the videotape. Yeah. It looks like you.
It looks like me?
Yeah. Her reaction to her son accusing her almost every time is like, oh, she did it. She definitely did it, Steven. Listen to her.
Yeah.
So they get him to call and talk to his mom. Now, as we learn, Steven is a mama's boy, and Joanna's not folding for anybody. Her son, this little pipsqueak, she shuts him down. No problem.
Why did you do it?
I didn't, Steven.
Bob, did you do it? Seriously, do not lie to me.
Steven, no, I did not.
So then the cops finally convince her to come on down to the station and talk to them. And here, they're rolling their sleeves up. They think, she's in our territory now. We're going to own this woman. But what happens, Kateline?
She stonewalls them. She's sassing them.
Sassafras,
She's
left
like
and right.
Playing chicken with them.
Oh!
She's like leaning in, all intimidating. Like, what? Say it to my face.
Yes.
I don't even care.
What the two of them do is none of my business.
This is the part that I may have stood up and clapped for, okay? Because her performance with these cops. Now, again, I'm not happy with her. She's a murderer, okay? So I'm not like on Team Joanna over here. But when it comes to team murder suspect and team cops who just keep saying, that's your mom, that's your mom, that's your mom, that's your mom. I loved them going head to head in this app. Her drop the mic was the best drop the mic I think I've ever seen from an interrogation. Kateline, have you ever seen a better drop the mic moment in an interrogation? Because they go...
What was the drop the mic moment?
They're showing her the stills, right? And those idiots showed her the f***ing police sketch. Why would they show her that? That's clear you guys don't have Jack, right?
Yeah.
So they're showing the pictures and her reaction is... Oh, you think that's me? Okay. And she's stonewalling, right? And then they come out with the big guns and they say, your son accused you. And she goes, God, he might need glasses. And then their reaction is like the room deflated because they're like, uh-oh, she's got the upper hand. She ain't cracking.
I don't know, maybe we need to go get his glasses.
It was as though the oxygen left the room.
And so they're telling her, they're going, look, you don't know this, but blood sticks around in trucks for a long time, okay? You may have think that you clean your truck, but there's probably some blood in there and we're going to find it. And she takes a little piece of paper, throws it in front of him, gets up and goes, all right, well, let me know when you're done with all your little tests with the truck and the blood, but until then, I'm leaving.
Well, like I said, when you get your little blood and whatever you're going to find in the truck, let me know. Until then.
Okay.
And she walked out of the room.
Woo! That's good, huh?
Yeah.
She was cocky as hell.
Yeah, that is a big swinging dick right there.
She owned him in that room, and it was hilarious.
They kept saying how the police sketch was like dead on. Like, and even Steven was like, oh, that's her nose. Like, that could be her nose. No, it isn't. No. That pointy nose looks nothing like her nose.
Yeah.
That's what threw me the most, where they're like even the eyewitnesses are like, look how pointy, those pointy features. And you look at her and there's no pointiness. Her nose is kind of like wide, and her chin, she like doesn't have much of a chin.
If there's one thing about her, it's the opposite of pointiness. Things are wide open.
Yes.
Like those peepers. And this is our moment. Let's talk about it, Kate. I mean, it's about 14 and a half minutes into the episode because I checked that clock. Would you like to go ahead and share this high five we had?
They're talking about Steven, and then they put up a side-by-side of Steven and then a picture of his mom.
Mm-hmm. Steven's mom, Joanna, had always been supportive.
And immediately, the photo they use of her, it's clear, like, oh, that's the murderer. They're not looking for a man, they're looking for a woman, and it's the mom.
She's crazy eyes.
Look at her crazy eyes. She's the murderer.
Yes.
So then as soon as we see the surveillance video for the first time, I'm like, well, clearly that's a woman. You can tell it's a woman by the way they're walking.
Yeah.
That's the significant thing about that walk.
Yeah.
It's not that there's like a super wide stride. It's like, that's a woman. She's sashaying.
Yeah.
Like you can see her booty and like, so I think they knew that from the beginning, but to make this Dateline episode more interesting, they were just kind of creating stuff. Like even all the stuff
you're preaching to the choir here. I agree 1,000%.
Like
and I think there was one person who was into it. I think Dennis Murphy thought it was interesting. I think.
Yes.
Right?
Look what we have here, huh?
Totally. Because they knew it was a woman immediately. There's no way.
And now, one of the things that we, as viewers of Dateline, love is the give and take of like, oh, I knew this when this happened. Oh, you got me here. This episode is so clearly the killer is a woman, and it's the one woman we've seen with the crazy eyes, that it's not just because of that picture. It's because I'm going to do a count of how many times they say man or he in the first 10 minutes of this episode.
The witness then saw a white male she'd noticed wandering around the parking lot.
Because Murphdog in the past has had a lot of fun with, we don't know if that's a man or a woman. We don't know if it's a man or a woman. Which one is it? Which one is it?
They didn't even know if they were looking for a man or a woman.
And so I already noticed in this ep, before the picture came in, that they were talking a shit ton about a guy. And then you look at that footage and it's like, well, no shit, Murphdog. The killer's a woman.
Right.
But we don't reveal this for ages. Ages they sit on this.
The pronouns are always a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
If they're going out of their way to say a certain pronoun, you know it's the opposite.
Yes, because also in this day and age, like it's just, well, one for mystery's sake, but safety-wise, they. Right? That's the safe.
They, the killer, the suspect.
Yeah.
They know it's her, but they can't arrest her yet because they have to make sure that their case is rock solid. And so all of Heather's friends are like, come on, it's Steven's mom. We know this.
Yeah.
Like, arrest her. And they're like, we don't want to blow it. We got to wait.
Got to build that case.
Yep.
Right.
So a little bit of time goes by, but not much. It's only like 6 months since the murder.
I think.
And they do arrest her.
I don't think it's more than a year.
And they knew it was going to be a circumstantial case. They knew that going in. It was going to be kind of an uphill battle. But
yeah. And Murphdog loves to bring it up. Hey, all these witnesses are talking about a man, but the lady on trial is a lady. What's up?
Right. It's like, well, because all the witnesses said it was a disguise. So
yeah,
that's how.
Yeah.
6 eyewitnesses identifying a male, and at the defense table is a female.
That's a problem.
Okay, so so are we at the trial?
Yeah.
So the trial happens, and they're not gone for long, are they?
No, they do though. The jury asks to, what is it? There's one piece of the evidence that they asked to look at again.
Oh, yeah, they wanted to see Steven react to seeing his mom on tape.
They wanted to see that interrogation
They wanted to watch that one more time.
Jurors asked to rehear that phone call that Steven made to his mom.
Their only question, huh?
So at this point, I'm nervous too because, they were saying that whenever jurors ask to see something again, it means they're kind of not unified, or maybe it's not going to go a certain way. And I'm thinking like they're going to look at that footage again and think he was coerced because that cop keeps saying,
that's her, that's your mom.
But the jury comes back very quickly after that. Guilty.
Guilty, just like Heather's dad wanted.
And I said, come on, just do it.
What'd you think of Heather's dad? I felt bad for him, for one. He's a sad old guy.
He reminded me of Jim Broadbent.
Yeah, I can see that.
And actually, the killer, Joanna, reminded me of Carrie Kenny.
I can see that.
I was expecting much worse.
So she's guilty. Steven doesn't really see the kid anymore.
The kid is living with Heather's parents. And they kind of covered this on the Talking Dateline about why that would be, because Stephen didn't murder Heather, so why isn't the kid living with Stephen? So right after the murder happened, the cops handed Carson over to Heather's parents, and they have had him ever since the day of the murder. And immediately, the very next day, they were on the phone with lawyers trying to get custody of Carson. And Stephen, on his end, was also trying. So the battle was now, instead of between Stephen and Heather, it was between Stephen and her parents. And it was ugly.
Right.
And ultimately, they won the custody battle. And that is why Stephen doesn't see Carson anymore.
Wow. I thought he didn't want to because he's a scrub.
No.
He's like a bum, and he supports his mom.
AC asked Murph about that in the podcast, and he said, no, Stephen tried. They were going to court about it for a while, but they won. And unfortunately, Heather's mom passed away, so now her dad is raising Carson alone. And he's about 16 now, and it's just the two of them.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Did you like when good old Murphdog, ever the investigative journalist, okay, is he says, hey, now I heard that Stephen was a little rough with Heather.
Well, he snapped at her?
And then the dad says, I don't want to talk about it.
I don't care to go into that.
And then Murphdog presses him. Remember? And he says, okay, but something happened, right?
But something happened.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Of course, Joanna was saying that Heather was actually a terrible mother and that Carson would be in way better hands living with Stephen and her. But then we hear from some of Heather's friends who are like, no, actually, it's the other way around. Sometimes Joanna would just take Carson out of his stroller and just walk off with him and
walk out the door. Didn't
have any respect for Heather, and it seemed like they were not getting along for a while.
Now, I didn't confirm it. This is 1,000% a snapped. This is primo snap material, so much so that I was like, God, how many of these lady in disguise in a Target parking lot killers have I seen? Because I feel like I've seen at least 3. Then finding out this one was in 2009, it's probably this exact one that's on that snap. But again, I find myself going, guys, why are we giving the 2-hour block to Den Diggity and this topic?
Totally.
Why? This is a shorty if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, they were just...
Do you agree?
I do. It was all filler. It was all creating these other suspects when immediately they knew they were looking for a woman.
Yeah.
But everything with Heather's boyfriend, Michael, being like, he's the similar build. No, he isn't. You're just stringing us along. You're just trying to throw other suspects at us. It's always been Joanna.
Yeah.
And I did love this episode because of how stupid it was.
Yeah, that's why I have my strong feelings too. So I guess I too love it because I was laughing my ass off at it about all the times that, like, Murphdog felt like he was trying to turn a phrase like 3 too many times tonight. He said a lot of things that were like colloquialisms or something. I'll play a few of them, but...
They're going to meet their vehicle and they're going to get out of Dodge, huh?
Right.
I'd be legging it out of there, right? But he's acting a little squirrely, I think I hear you saying. Are you starting to pour doubles at that point? Those stories jive. The heat was on, right? Wore the pants, as the old saying used to go. Close but no cigar. That's a lot of nothings.
And he goes, something I'm always very interested in, demeanor. I was Murphdog into demeanor. Remember when he asked about that? Tell us about your fascination with demeanor. Yeah, when did this start? Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, Dennis? Tell us more. Oh, my God.
I'm always interested in demeanor. Who's this guy in the room now?
And he would ask questions and then start to hear the answer and then ask a follow-up or the same question again, I thought.
And interrupt them.
Yes. He was on one tonight. Like, Murphdog was in rare form.
He would not let people finish their answers. I guess he wanted to make sure he got the right soundbite, that they were going to say it in a self-contained sentence or something, but it was like, man, let them say it. Let them finish a sentence.
Chief, it's not great video, is it?
It's not good video.
Grainy
really.
and fuzzy. And...
Yeah, I know, because I do think about that, like, am I being too hard on him? Is he doing that for the editor? Is he just trying to cover the edit? And I say, Kurt, don't make excuses, okay? He's a profesh, and the other ones don't do it like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're being too mean to Murphdog.
Well, I think it's list time.
List?
Kate's unnamed list. I got nothing. It is not a small town.
It's not?
It seems like it might be, but I know someone who grew up there, and she said there are several high schools with like 2,500 kids in each school.
Oh, geez.
It's sprawling. It's maybe not densely populated, but it's big. Anywhere that has like a Target and a Marshalls and a Home Goods and all that stuff is not a small town. Small town, in my mind, the kind of town where you don't lock your doors, that's like a one stoplight town. And this is like a big suburb.
Yeah. I mean, the one stoplight is the smallest version of it.
True.
Right?
But like Mustang, Oklahoma. That's a small town.
Mustang America.
So there was no Florida connection, no military, no one cried, said I'm sorry, no puzzle piece.
You're right. No puzzle piece.
I got nothing.
Okay, on to Kurt's Kick-Ass List.
Kick-Ass List. Kick-Ass List.
It's funny I was so down on Murphdog a moment ago, because guess what he did for all Kurt money tonight?
He gave you...
Because he said signs of a struggle again.
He did.
And there were no signs of a struggle at the scene.
Delivered in clean VO. I loved it. I said, Murphdog. I loved it. That's the only thing on my list. Anyway, next week we're talking about A Girl Named Egypt.
Ooh.
I've seen the thumbnail forever. You know the one I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it A Girl Named Egypt?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, we'll find out. All right, well, that's going to do it. I'm Kurt Money.
I'm Kateline.
I'm Lester Holt. For all of us, I'm Lester Holt. Good night.
Let me know.